What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at how to create individual memory cards per game for PlayStation 2 games, that is using the PCSX2 emulator. And we're also going to be looking at how to set per game settings so that each game has its own settings, like video settings and stuff like that. Now, the reason you would want to do that is because PS2 is not a one-fits-all system, meaning you can't just have your emulator settings set up a certain way that is pretty much going to work for all games. You do have to go in and tweak different settings here and there for different games. So that is what we're going to be taking a look at today. Now, as usual, my videos are more catered towards my customers that have my hyperspin systems, but the information is generally helpful for other people as well if you want to keep watching even if you don't have one of my systems. All right, so the first thing you want to do is go to the toolkit and select Exit to Windows. Okay, and then we're going to start easy with the memory cards. So you want to go ahead and open up RocketLauncher from the shortcut desktop. I already have it open right here. And then on the left here, you want to select Sony PlayStation 2. Then you want to go to the Modules tab up here, and then select PCSX2. Don't select these other ones, just PCSX2. And you want to click this icon. It's the fourth one from the right. And then right here, you're simply going to say per memory cards and set that to true, just like that. And then you're going to close this out, and we're going to minimize RocketLauncher. We're going to open up a folder, so I'm going to go to this PC. Over here, I'm going to select emulators, and I'm going to look for PCSX2. And you want this one here, PCSX2 1.6.0. Go in there, and double-click PCSX2.exe. Okay, here you want to go to Config, Memory Cards, and you want to go to Create. And you just want to name it default. Whoops. Default. Just like that. Make sure you spell it right. Go to create and then click OK. And that is basically all you have to do. So let me show you a few examples here. So if you look inside of your memory cards folder, you're going to see that there's just these two here and the default one that we just created, right? So now if we go to RocketLauncher and we go to the Games tab, I just typed this street right here and I pressed the play button and it found all the games that have the word street in it. So we're gonna say, let's say Street Fighter Anniversary Collection. We're gonna click the little rocket icon to launch that game. All right, we're not gonna do any gameplay. I'm just gonna quit right out of it. And what I'm gonna show you is that it now should have created a memory card for that game. So here it is. You go back to that same memory cards folder. Now you have a memory card for that game. And if you actually double check in PCSX2.exe, config, memory cards, you can see that that memory card is automatically loaded into port 1. All right, so let's go ahead and give you one more example quickly here. And that is going to be for Street Fighter EX. And the reason I'm showing you this one is because it's going to tell you that the memory card is not formatted, just like a real PlayStation 2 would if you inserted a blank memory card. So let's go ahead and start this up. And there's the message, memory card is not formatted. So you have to go into the menu just like you would with a regular PlayStation 2. And you want to go to, I guess, the options. Yep, and here's memory card. You go to data save. Yes, slot 1. It's not formatted, so it asks you if you want to format it. You say yes. And say yes. Yes. Sure. Yes. There you go. Now your memory card is good to go. So just keep in mind that you will have to do that for some games. All right, so that is it for the memory cards. Now we're going to move on to per game settings. Now, like I said, the reason you need this is because not all games can use the same settings. Now, the settings that I include for as default are settings that work for a large majority of the games. So because of that, the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and minimize RocketLauncher. We're going to go over here. Let me delete this because that's something I created. You know what? I'll leave it for now. So you're not going to have ionize dash copy. You want to create that. So you want to right click ionize copy and right click here and do paste. So you're going to have your own ionized copy. All right. The reason you want that is because, again, those are the settings, the default settings that I include that are going to work for a large majority of games across the board. Okay, so here is the problem. Some games don't work with those settings, and let me show you an example. Let's go back here and let's start up Street Fighter Anniversary Collection. Let me just lower the volume on the PlayStation 2 emulator when it starts here. All right, this is just me lower the volume. You don't have to worry about this.
Welcome to the world. I got here. I've been waiting for this. Into the heat of battle. Go for it.
All right, so you can see that that looks pretty bad. You can see all those vertical lines right there that look pretty terrible. So this game requires a fix, a different set of settings for the video settings. So let's go ahead and exit. And basically, let's say you run into a problem like that. All right, the best thing to do is just go over to Google and do a search. So in this example, I typed in PCSX2, which is the emulator, and I typed in Street Fighter Collection, the game we're trying to play, and I just simply put lines. It's as simple as that, right? This first search results right here, I'm going to right click open, link a new tab. And then if you go down, you can see that this guy right here says maybe using native resolution to do the fix. He's telling you to use native resolution because 2D games aren't meant to be upscaled. All right, so simple enough. Now, the reason that's happening, the lines, is because if we look at my settings, PCSX2 right here, and we go to config, we go to video, and we go to plugin settings, you can see that by default, I include 3x native resolution to upscale the games to look, more high def. So games, 2D games especially, don't like that. So, an easy fix would be to just set everything to native. But if you don't want to do that, you want to take advantage of the upscaling for some games, then you can do per game settings. So let's go ahead and cancel out of this. Let's go back to Rocket Launcher. And let's go ahead and go over the modules tab. Again, PCSX2, and select this fourth icon from the right. And then you want to set this auto create ini directory to true. So now it's going to create a directory for each game. Now, if this is not here for you guys, simply click the little hourglass here and then go over here to the D drive, arcade, and then go down to emulators, PCSX2 1.6.0, and then point it to the ionize folder right there and click OK. All right, then it should look just like that, and this should be set to true. So now what's going to happen is when you start up each and every one of these games, Rocket Launcher is automatically going to grab any settings that are in here, any files. These are the files that the ionize that contain all the settings. It's going to grab all of those, and it's going to make a folder over here with the particular game's name, and it's going to copy all those files into that game's folder. The next time you play that game, it is going to load the settings from that folder instead of loading the default settings from the ionize folder. Now, the reason we made a backup at the beginning is because what you have to do is now you have to start up PCSX2, and you have to go over here and change the settings. So you go over here, video, plugin settings, and like that post set over here, you're going to be trying to set it to native resolution. So instead of internal resolution being set to 3x, you're going to set it to native. All right, so now you click OK, you close this out, and we're going to start the game through Rocket Launcher, and you're going to see that in the game's configs folder, there's going to be a new folder with the game's name, and Rocket Launcher is going to have copied these INIs in there. And from now on, when you start up that game, it'll use those settings. So let's go ahead and try that. Start up this game.
Welcome to the world. Yeah, I'm the world. I got it. Yeah, I see it.
And there you go. You can see that that looks correct now. There are no lines or anything, so everything's good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and exit the game. And now we're going to go back to the folder over here to game configs. And you can see that now Street Fighter Anniversary Collection is in there as a folder. And inside there, you have all of these settings. So what you would do at this point is you would then take the ionized copy folder. You would take all of those settings. You would copy them. And you would go back to the ionize and then paste and overwrite everything that is there. And why you're doing that is because, like I said at the beginning, these are the settings that I provide to you with the 3 upscaling and all that stuff that are pretty compatible, again, are pretty compatible for a large majority of the games. So we're basically setting the default settings back, restoring those settings because we had changed those by opening PCSX2. We had changed the resolution to native in this game's, for this particular game, Street Fighter. So now that Rocket Launcher already set up a folder for that particular game with those specific settings, we're going to go ahead and restore the ionize for the original settings that I provide to you. All right, so again, I just did that. I copied all of these over back to INI. So now what's going to happen is when you launch any other game, Rocket Launcher is going to take those default INIs, put them into a folder with the game's name, and from now on, it'll use those. But when you start up Street Fighter, it's going to use these modified settings that we just fixed according to that post. All right, so then that creates a little bit of a problem because now what's going to happen is every single game, as soon as you start up a game, it's going to have that folder with the default settings from here. So let's say in the future you start up a game, it has some issue, you Google it, they tell you, oh, try this or try that, right? And you want to go ahead and try those settings. You would open up PCSX2, and then you would go in here and you would tweak whatever settings the search that you did told you to tweak. Then what you have to do is go ahead and go over here into the game settings, and you want to delete the folder for that game that was already created. All right, you want to delete that. And then the other thing that you have to do is you want to go over here to Rocket Launcher, and you want to go back to the modules, PCSX2, this fourth icon from the right, and you want to set auto create ini to false. This is just while you test the game. All right, so close that out. And now what's going to happen is Rocket Launcher is no longer going to try to make a specific folder for that game as you're testing it, and it is going to use the settings from in here. All right, so you went in here, you set up the settings according to the post you found. You went in here, you deleted the folder for that game that Rocket Launcher had already created, if there is one. And you went over here to Rocket Launcher and you turned off the auto create ini directory. So now you're back to square one. Rocket Launcher is using the default settings in the ini folder. So what you do now is you start up the game. You make sure you like the settings that you changed. If you don't like them, you just you quit the game. You come back here. You change the settings. You keep tweaking them. Keep tweaking things until you like the results. You can go back here, start up the game again. Start up the game. And once you get the game looking how you wanted, it's like, okay, now I have the settings that I like. So go back to modules, go to the PCSX2 selection, fourth icon from the right, go ahead and turn back auto create ini directory back to true, and then go ahead and start up the game again. It should be looking good because you already tweaked the settings. And when you quit the game and you come back out here to the game configs folder, you're going to notice that the folder for that game was recreated, and Rocket Launcher is going to have copied all of these settings and files from the ionized folder over to that folder over here. And so at that point, you can again restore the default ionized settings by copying all of these from your backup to the ionized folder and replacing everything. And that's it. From now on, when you start up that game that you just fixed, it is going to look in here and load the settings that are in its particular folder in here. All right, so don't forget, guys, always delete the folder in here when you're tweaking the settings. Set the module settings to false for create ini, for auto create ini, right? Set that to false, and then you can just go ahead and tweak everything you like directly in the emulator. Start up the game over here. Make sure you like the settings. If you don't, quit it, keep tweaking. Once you're done tweaking, you go ahead and set up the auto create ini directory back to true. Launch the game. It will create a folder for the game with the correct settings. Then go ahead and restore the default settings for PCSX2 into the main ionized folder. And that's it. You are good to go after that. All right, guys, and we're going to try one more example here real quick. So let's go ahead and head over back to Rocket Launcher, and I'm going to type in 50 for 50 cent, and we're going to start up this game. Now, I know this game has issues with the default settings, so that's why I want to show you one more example here. So let's go ahead and start the game. And right now we do have the create auto create ini set to true. So basically right now Rocket Launcher will have created a folder for this game, and it's going to have copied over the default settings from ini over to that folder. And wow, yeah, that looks really bad. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to fix this. So I'm going to go ahead and exit the game. And what I did, I'm not going to do it now, but I've done this in the past, is I searched it. I typed in PCSX2 50 cent lines or green lines, or whatever you can think of. So the search results that I found told me that the problem was probably the CRC level, and I'm going to show you what that is in a minute. So let's go ahead and minimize this. First, I just want to show you that in game configs there is a folder for 50 cent. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that first, because remember, that's going to contain the default ionized settings from here, and we don't want that. Then I'm just going to go ahead over here to Rocket Launcher. I'm going to go to modules, select PCSX2. Now, if you ever come here and you don't see anything here, it's because you have to refresh it. So click this little icon right here. It'll refresh this list. Click PCSX2, fourth icon from the right. And then let's set auto create ini to false. Go ahead and exit and come over here to PCSX2, go to config, video, plugin settings, and here's that CRC hack level setting. I have it set to aggressive by default. This game does not like that. So basically you try a few different ones until you get the one that works. And I believe the one that works is partial for me. So let's go ahead and set it to partial, click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And I'm going to go ahead and start the game again. Now, normally, I wouldn't set this thing to true again over here, the setting, because first I want to launch the game, make sure it looks good, make sure what I changed worked. Then I'll come here and tell it to create the auto create the ini again. But I know that setting is correct, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn this on to save time. So I'm going to set it to true right here, close this out, and start up the game again. There you go. No more green lines. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and exit. And because I had already turned that setting on, which again I would normally do after I make sure it's okay, but I turned it on ahead of time. So if you go back to game configs, now you have the 50 cent folder with the correct settings in there. So I go back over here now, restore my original settings so that these settings apply to every other game. Paste them in here, replace, and now every other game uses these INIs from here. But when I start up any of these two games, it'll use the modified settings that I set. All right, guys, so I know that's a little bit of a work through there, but it's very simple. Just once you get the hang of it, it's super simple. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I hope that's helpful, and I'll see you guys on the next one.